right now. Hello, hello. Hey, Carta. Hey, Elizabeth. Hey, Monique and Parker. Welcome, welcome. Come on in. No, I appreciate those of you who are committed enough to be here. Uh, you know, for spent a lot of time together today. We had Jill. We had a workshop, a 90-minute workshop, that ended 30 minutes ago. That some of these people were on.
Oh,
So it's a
wow.
Yeah. So some of these people are getting 3 hours of me today, which is a lot even for me. Um, so although I have a lot of meets all the time, but yes. But yeah, so good here. So as y'all are coming in, I would love to know your win of the week. So if you would drop your win of the week in the chat, I'd love to hear about that. Jill, how's your week been?
It's been good. Yeah,
Good,
very good. Yeah,
good. I'm glad. I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but do you have a particular win you want to share with the group?
you know what? So during the pandemic, we started teaching marriage conferences, marriage seminars online live.
Mm-hmm.
And after the pandemic ended, our speaking picked back up. And so we were no longer doing that. And so we
Yeah,
actually decided to do another one live. And we had about 75 couples sign up.
that's
And
awesome.
so we just started that on Tuesday. So it'll run 4 Tuesday nights during the month of October.
That's cool. That's great. What's the
Yeah.
focus of this workshop or this summit or conference,
Our
whatever you're calling it?
no, it's our No More Perfect Marriages seminar.
Yeah,
So so it's what we do at churches all over the US, and actually all we've done it in Europe, we've done it in Africa. So so we take
yeah.
it four session, usually a four session. So we just break it into 4 nights, and couples can take it from home. We tell them it's the only marriage seminar you can take in your jammies. So
Love that. That's good. Yeah. Man, I love that so much. So, well, hey, before we get started, everybody, I want to share a story. Now, forgive me if you heard the story already once today and you're going to hear it again, but I think it's a really important story as we talk about what does it take to become a sold out coach? Because it's something we talk about, but like, what does that mean? Does it matter? Why do we do it? All that kind of stuff. So I want to read a story real quick. That's from a book called The Power of Ignorance and Why We Really Want What We Can't Have. So in 1503, a Florentine artist took on a commission for a local businessman, Francesco del Giocondo. And forgive me for those of you who know any actual Italian, I'm sure it's pronounced totally differently than that. But it was a painting of his wife, and it wasn't considered anything special. It wasn't big. It measured 30 inches by 21 inches, which is between the modern sizes A1 and A2 for paper. But around 300 years later, so remember, 300 years after this painting was made, in 1797, it ended up on the wall between much larger pictures in the Louvre in Paris. Now, the public barely noticed it until the 21st of August, 1911, because on that day, Vincenzo Perugia, another Italian name I'm sure I butchered, visited the Louvre and hid in a broom closet. Now, after the museum closed, he came out, he took the small painting off the wall, it fit under his coat. And as he took it, he calmly walked out of the building, and no one even noticed it was missing. No one noticed anything unusual until sometime later the next day when someone remembered there used to be a small picture in the gap between the two larger pictures. No big deal. It must have been removed for cleaning. But eventually, they found out no, it hadn't. And they realized this was an art theft, but not just any theft. The thief ignored all of the masterpieces around and targeted this one painting. So that means it must be worth more than anything else hanging on the walls. The newspapers got hold of the story and everyone wanted to know what was this masterpiece that had been targeted above all others. The Louvre checked and told them it was called the Mona Lisa. The public didn't remember it, but it was obviously the most valuable painting in the Louvre. It was the only one stolen. So suddenly everyone wanted to see the Mona Lisa. They must see the painting that was worth stealing above all others. But no one could see it because it wasn't there, which made them want to see it more. The Mona Lisa soon became the most famous painting in the world, and it probably still is today. It was as if the Louvre was only half a museum without it, and eventually, after 2 years, it was recovered when the thief tried to sell it to the Uffizi Gallery in Florence. It was quickly returned to the Louvre, and everyone packed in to see it. Today, according to director Henry Loiret, 6 million people visit the Louvre every year just to see the Mona Lisa. People never want something so much when they can't have it. So I thought that story when I read that was so special because it kind of speaks to this whole focus of building a business as a sold out coach that people want what they can't have. And the Mona Lisa, I've known it. I'm not much of an art nerd, but I know about the Mona Lisa, and it's because for 2 years nobody could see it because it was stolen. I think it's just a fascinating origin story because for 300 years nobody paid any attention to it. So you don't have to wait 300 years to become famous. You can just become a sold out coach tomorrow. So there we go. How's that for a call to action? But yeah, so Jill, why don't you start us off by just introducing yourself to the group? Know that. So let me just also just set the tone for anybody who's not up to date on what's going on today. Jill has agreed to be in the spotlight today. I have started this series now called the Sold Out Coach Spotlight. Dustin Riekman was the first. If you haven't watched that, go back and watch that. It was amazing, super in depth in terms of like how he built his business. And Jill's agreed to be the second. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to dive into just the behind the scenes, pull back the curtain a bit on how Jill and her husband Mark have built their marriage coaching business, their group coaching program. To talk about that, we're going to get in the weeds a bit, and kind of trace back how did you get there to where you are now and what's next. And this is a chance to put some meat on the bones of what does it mean to have a sold out coaching program? What does it mean to have a group coaching program? And you will have plenty of chances to ask questions for Jill and for myself as well. But Jill, why don't you start us off by sharing just a bit about kind of introduce yourself, assume there's people who are listening in who have never heard of you or Mark, which is a tragedy, of course. But if you could, please introduce us a bit and tell us a bit about your story.
Thanks. So yeah, my husband and I are marriage coaches, and we've been doing that for about 7 years now. And we live in Normal, Illinois. So we have a lot of fun with that name.
Yeah.
But our goal is to help people navigate the normal parts of life and relationships. And so we have quite a marriage story. In 2010, my husband began a midlife crisis, and by 2011, he was a mess. He had left a 20-year career that he had done, and that's all he knew, and where he had his identity. And so, unfortunately, that contributed to it as well. And so, in 2011, he had an affair, and it was a really, really dark year. He eventually separated. I just believed that our marriage wasn't over. I believed that um, if he could get rid of the chaos in his head and heart, that he would, that our marriage actually could make it. And because I knew it was less about our marriage and far more about just his own personal struggles. So I stood for our marriage for a year, and on Easter Sunday, we like to say that he had his own personal resurrection, because he made a complete turnaround in Easter Sunday of 2012. So we healed, and it took about a year and a half for us to really heal. Every Friday at 9 a.m., we went to a marriage counseling appointment for 18 months, and that contributed to our healing. And, we really honestly thought that was for us. But as we were healing, we would share with friends and family things we were learning about ourselves. And eventually we began to realize, wow, some of these things that we're learning, other people really need to understand and know.
Yeah.
So eventually we shared our story publicly. And we did that through my blog initially. So we put out what we called the 10-day blog series, and every day we would release a little more of our story. This is way back before social media existed like it does now. But in essence, we're doing that on the blog, and my blog readership went from 5,000 to 15,000 overnight. Like it just went nuts. And we just
you hit a nerve.
Yeah, people really need to be encouraged in their marriages. And so eventually we wrote the book No More Perfect Marriages, and then began the process of starting to help other couples. And so that took us until last year. And then last year, when I was part of John's mastermind, that was when we had been talking about training marriage coaches, and so duplicating ourselves in essence. And finally I was like, all right, we just need to do this. And so we launched our first cohort of marriage coaches as a result of my time in John's mastermind.
Yeah.
And
Well, thank you, Jill, for yeah.
yeah,
Sorry, what were you gonna say?
no, that takes us to today where we just
Yeah.
launched our second cohort.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that, Jill. And the work you do is so important. That's one of the reasons why I wanted you to come on here and share. Is just like, yes, it's sold out coach. It's built into the name that we want to sell, right? Like we want to make an income. And that's a core part of why people want to do this. But impact, it has to be intertwined with that of like how we're making the world a better place. And I think, you and Mark, where, it's unfortunately it's a typical story, but it's a plot twist ending, right? Because it's a very common story to hear about someone where like they're, someone had a midlife crisis or they had disconnection in their marriage and somebody cheated. And usually you know how that ends, right? And then it's like, and now they're divorced or remarried, right? That's sort of like how it goes. And so I think it's what's unique is not only the fact that you and Mark are very public about your journey, but also the fact that you've said it doesn't have to be that way, that there is it's possible to find a path to reconciliation and repentance and move forward and to build Mark and Jill 2.0, which I know is a phrase you talk about a lot about building marriage 2.0.
Yep.
And it's so important. So tell us a bit, before we dive into group coaching program specifically, can you tell us a bit about your business? So, we're going to dive into the group coaching stuff in a minute, but before that, right? So you've had an internet business for a long time, and you've also written quite a few books. So could you tell us a bit about what you've done professionally?
Yeah. Yep. So Mark and I actually have, let's see, our 19th book releasing in January. I don't think
Wow.
you knew that, John, but
No.
we actually have two more traditionally published books that'll be releasing
Are
in
these the
January.
prayer books?
They're the prayer
Yeah, yeah.
book.
Okay, so I knew
That's
about these. Yeah.
18 and 19. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, most of my books were in the Christian mom space.
Mhm.
And so definitely those they came out of, I led a nonprofit ministry for 24 years, and it was a mom's ministry. So a lot of them are in that mom space.
Yeah.
Most recently, I had my Empty Nest Full Life book, which you can see there on the screen.
Yeah.
And that book is traditionally published, but the journal we actually self-published through Amazon KDP. And
Yeah.
so I have a mix of books. They're traditionally published and self-published. So there's a real mix there, most traditionally. But so we have our books. And then we also do marriage coaching, and we do that. We do in general marriage coaching, and then we do that in person as well as on Zoom.
Oh, and
And
let's talk about your intensives too, because I know that's a big thing that I
yep,
think would be relevant. Yeah.
yep, for sure. And so then our intensives are something really unique that we do, and that is that, in fact, this is our really had up until we did our training marriage coaches, this was our largest offer.
Hmm.
And so one couple comes and spends 3 days with us in our home, and we work through their marriage challenges and help them get to the other side, and move from hurting
Yeah.
to hopeful. So this was that, and it still is one of our biggest offers. It's a $5,000 resource, and we do 2 or 3 of those a month. In general, is
And I
it's
think you have like almost like an Airbnb or a second house on your property that you use it to host that, right?
well, they actually stay in our home, but we have a pretty large,
Oh.
yeah,
Oh, okay, great.
in
Okay,
our
good.
home.
Yeah.
Hmm,
Wow,
yeah,
that's great.
yeah, but
That's
they
another one. That's another way to leverage the empty nest, I suppose.
yes, it is another.
Yes.
Yes, you couldn't imagine doing that, John, but
No, no, 4 kids and a dog. I'm like, you don't want there's no room. Sorry.
yeah,
No room at
there's
the end.
no. It's just Mark and I
Yeah.
here, and so and our kids and grandkids live in town, but they all know when it's an intensive weekend, they don't just drop by. So
Yeah.
this we've been doing these now for almost 7 years, and they are a
That's
very
good.
large part of our revenue for
I
our
want
business.
to I want to highlight this real quick. I think we talk a lot about when we're selling a program, you want to focus on the before and after and the transformation. I love that you have a visual here of like day 1 and day 3, like the before and after of your intensive, of saying like the happiness level, 73% in men is the average, 30% in women is the average. Is that what I'm reading right?
Well, that one was actually literally, so that those are pictures of literally their
Oh, okay. So it's not an average, it's like one couple as an example.
Yep, that was one
Got
couple
it.
in
Oh,
the
I see you say that.
example.
Here's one couple's answer. Yeah, okay, got it. Yeah.
Yep,
To
and
102%. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, so and that is, it's really helpful.
I love that. That's great. Okay.
Yeah.
So we told about intensives. You also have we've talked about books and intensives. You also have a membership, right?
Yep, I
What's the
do have
website for that?
yep, easydatenights.com.
That's right, easydatenights.com.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Yeah. Which I don't know if you know, Jill, I actually often use this as an example of if you're selling a membership, sell what does it make possible, right? You're not selling like the medicine, so to speak. You're selling the cure of like the cure is that you want to fall in love with your spouse over and over again. You want to spark laughter, love, and friendship with fun date nights, design a deepen connection, ignite romance, and strengthen your connection. So um excellent. Love that. So tell us about the membership.
Yeah, so the membership is it's a community of married couples. Sometimes we do have individuals, maybe their spouse isn't interested to,
Mm-hmm.
tell them that's all right. If you can continue to improve yourself, then you'll bring a different self to the marriage.
Yeah.
And so it's $24.99 a month, and they get something from us every week to watch, listen to, or do together. And
Mm-hmm.
we have what we call Double Date with Mark and Jill, and that's usually like a 10-minute teaching on just a marriage principle. And then we
Love
give
that.
them some discussion questions to talk about. We have these right there you see on the screen.
That's my favorite one, by the way. That I want some more of that. That's my favorite date night idea you have in the box here in the program.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a fun one. We give you a list of like 20 questions or 20
Yeah.
fill in the blanks, and you make some mores, and then you fill in the blanks and say, like, when we, after we put the kids in bed at night, I love it when you blank, and I want some more of
I want some more of that. Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
yeah, so
It's
they
fun.
get easy themed date nights, and then we also interview marriage experts, and those are usually about 30 minutes in length, and then they can watch those together and learn about their marriage
That's
as
great.
well. So yeah,
That's great. Love that. So you've got, yeah, I mean, you've got a lot going on, right? So, and this is true before we started working together on a group coaching program too, is that you've got a lot going on, right? You've got an established business, you got a lot of things going on there in terms of courses, books, membership, all that kind of stuff. So tell us more about maybe kind of like, let's go back to that point, if you can reverse a little bit to when you first thought about launching a group coaching program or a mastermind. What was your initial thinking or interest in that?
I'll be honest with you. We thought about it for about 3 years before we
Yeah.
ever pulled the trigger on it. It honestly, initially, I was like, I don't have time for that.
Hmm.
To be really honest with you, I was
Yeah,
like,
please be honest. Yeah.
I just can't. I can't do anything else. I just can't.
Yeah.
So that was part of it. And both of us felt that way. I mean, both of us were like, yeah, I don't know. And and then what I began to realize is, well, I'm 3 years older than when we first started. Okay.
Hmm.
And even just from an age perspective, I'm 60, my husband is 64, and we're not going to live forever. And
True.
the principles that we teach, we believe, are game changers for marriage. They were game changers for our marriage. And so we started getting to a place of going, I want to duplicate ourselves. I want
Mm,
this message to outlive us.
yeah.
So if it's going to outlive us, and we're starting to get to the point where we have more coaching clients than what we can handle.
Yeah.
So, what if we start training coaches, and then we don't have to turn people away? We can actually turn them to our trained coaches.
Yeah.
And sometimes we're more expensive than what people want to pay. So our coaches now, they've been trained to do intensive. They've been trained but because they're starting out, they're going to be at a lower price range.
Hmm.
So we can serve people better by expanding and
Yeah.
duplicating ourselves.
Yeah. So a couple things I want to highlight for everyone tuning in and watching this, just in terms of how you think about how you can take some of these lessons and apply them to your own business. And by the way, I would encourage you, as you have your own aha moments, if you would share those in the chat for everyone's benefit. And extra credit if you use a little light bulb emoji, not required. But if you drop that in as like aha, something I'm learning for myself, I'll just mention something I'll call out is that we're here to really focus. We're going to get into this in the group coaching program, but the intensives, the reality is almost all of us in our businesses, there's a version that we could do of that. It's not going to look exactly the same, but
Mhm.
I've been paid before $10,000 for a VIP day where I had somebody who didn't want to go through my whole group coaching program, but they really wanted my help. And I just honestly kind of mentioned it as like an offer of just saying like, well, I mean, if you really want to do one-on-one, we'd have to spend a full day together. You have to pay to fly me out there and pay for my lodging expenses and it'd be $10,000. And they're like, okay, let's do it. And I was like, oh, okay, sure. So it can be helpful to have in your back pocket, even if it's not your bread and butter, of like what does a VIP or an intensive version of your program look like? Because sometimes that makes sense. Or like in Jill's case, she's got both, right? So you have the option where some people are like, we're gonna come in, we're gonna do intensive together. We want all your undivided attention. Some people are gonna go join a group coaching program. And just want to encourage you, like that's a good option. I think um what was it? Oh yeah, one of the things I just want to highlight that a Jill that's really unique. It's very special about Jill, what you do with your business is that it's you and Mark. And when you're coaching, it's also married couples, right? Where you're coaching like a husband and wife together. There are a lot of marriage coaches that usually coach individuals that are usually an individual wife or husband coaching an individual wife or husband. That's kind of the standard, right? So one of the things that sets Jill apart is that her and Mark run their business together. And so they are both the coaches together and they're coaching couples together. And the same thing for your group coaching program, right? Isn't your group coaching program for married couples to join together as a unit?
Yeah, yeah, most of them are. The
Yeah,
very first cohort that we did have one gal that her husband
sure.
wasn't interested, but she already was a step family coach or
Oh,
step
interesting.
mom coach. And so she was just wanting to expand her ability because she was finding that sometimes the step moms were saying, can you meet with my husband and I? And she really wasn't
Mm,
equipped for that. So we equipped her to be able to do
that's
that.
great.
But
I love
yes,
that.
most people that
Yeah.
do our program, they're doing it as couples.
Okay. All right. So you decided, you know what, maybe coaching other coaches is a way for us to increase our legacy. Um, and then can you walk me through what you did next? Right. So, I mean, obviously you joined my mastermind group, but besides that, so
Yep.
I want to know what you did, not what I get credit for.
Yeah, but
But
you know what? It's so
yeah,
funny because when I joined your mastermind group, we hadn't yet decided we were going to do
yeah,
that group coaching program. That
yeah.
became evident as I was in your mastermind group.
Yeah. Well, and
Uh,
I should say, just for context for you, Jill, but also for other people, when Jill joined, this was when you actually first joined was a couple years ago when my program was at the time focused on we're gonna do my accelerator program at the time was focused on building your whole business playbook where we talked about like, okay, how does your gateway product relate to your membership product, relate to your flagship product or your group coaching program? So now, Jill, I'm not sure if you know this, but now I all we focus on is the group coaching program because it's like that's the thing where I'm like if you can get that right, where you're earning at least $10,000 a month, group coaching 90 minutes a week, okay, well now that can allow you to do other things, right? That can fund your efforts to go write books or courses or memberships. And so, but back when you joined, we were still covering a lot like how do you use gateway products to create clients, how do you use membership products to grow recurring revenue, and how to use group coaching. So things have evolved a little bit since then. But yeah, so when you joined, you didn't know you were signing up for a program of group coaching because that was just a piece of the puzzle.
Correct. Right,
Yeah.
right, right. But it became more evident as time went on that it was like, all right, we've been thinking about this. And
Mhm.
we belong to another mastermind group. It's a
Yeah.
peer mastermind group, not a paid mastermind group, but it is a peer mastermind group of other people doing marriage ministry like we are. And so they had been telling us for at least 2 or 3 years, you guys need to be training coaches. You guys need to be training coaches. And we're like,
Yeah.
no, we're not going to do that. And
Yeah.
um, so then when I joined yours, I think that was just when I started to see it through a business mindset even more. And
Mhm.
it was like, no, we really do need to do this. So Yeah.
Yeah.
So we began to put together what would that look like,
Yeah.
and what we realized initially for us is that um, there was really there were two different audiences. Audience number one in our world wants, maybe they do like marriage ministry at their church,
Hmm.
and they just want to be better equipped, but they don't really want to get paid for coaching.
Right.
Audience number two is they want to actually create a coaching business. And so we knew we were dealing with both of those audiences, and it was like, what do we do? And in essence, the basic training is the same for both,
Right.
except then we have the business side of it for those that want to be
Pricing and
coaches,
invoices and marketing and yeah.
all of that. And we also wanted to teach them how to do intensives.
Mm,
So,
yeah.
so in essence, we created a two-part. There's part A and part B training,
Hmm.
and everybody does part A. And then only those that are interested in going on and creating a business does part B.
Yeah.
And so it took a while for us to figure that out. We created a 6-month program and a 12-month program, is in essence what we ended up creating. And I will say it took a lot of our time the first year,
Hmm.
because honestly, we were making it up as we were going along.
Yeah.
And I will say that's another thing, John, that people have to get in their head. They think that it needs to be all ready to go.
Mm,
We had a big picture, but I'm telling you, we were putting the PowerPoint slides together the week, each week before we would meet the next time.
good. Good.
Oh,
Yeah.
my husband says the hour before.
Yeah. Yeah. Does Mark want to say hello? If he's there, he's welcome to pop in and say hello. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the hour before. So a
Yeah.
lot of
I
times
believe
though,
it.
I think that people think we can't launch
Hmm.
until we have it all figured out. We had the plan
Yep.
figured out. We had the big picture. And then the other thing um, is that I'm going to see if I can find it here. Yeah. So as we would, as we taught it the first year, we didn't have handwritten notes. Like, people were taking notes as we were teaching. And
Hmm.
then what we were doing is then we would put together like a handbook. So we ended the first year and then like gave them their handbook.
Oh, cool.
And now we're in the second cohort, they already have their handbook.
Right.
So like we have this, we have this, I mean, it's a good size book that
Yeah.
people
That's a
get.
robust. Yeah.
Right. They get it in digital format, right? But that first group, and we told them right up front, y'all are guinea pigs. I mean, I was just really
Yeah.
honest with them, and they really helped us to create the course in essence. I mean, we had it laid out, but their questions helped us to realize, oh yeah, we probably ought to talk about this or
Yeah.
that. So I just say that sometimes you have to do that first one and you're making it up as you go along.
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. So and I will say for the people that I worked with that's actually better because I've worked with clients who they made the whole program. They prepped all the slides, all the workbook, and then started a program. And then 3 weeks in, they realized, oh man, I thought everybody needed help over here, but really they need help over here. And I put all the emphasis in the wrong things. And you just don't know
Yep.
that until you're actually working with humans, with people in a group.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's the
yeah,
benefit of creating it as you go along. Like, we
exactly.
had the outline, but I'll tell you, we actually kind of played with the outline
Yeah,
as we continued to go on because we began to realize some of those things.
love that. So, how did you price it the first time you sold your program?
Yeah. So the bottom line, the mentoring program was $2,000 for the 6 month, and then
Hmm.
the coaching program was 5,000 for the 12 month.
Okay. And then
Uh,
how often did you meet with those groups?
every other week.
Okay.
ev-
Yeah.
Every other week. And when I say 6 month and 12 month, we actually took a full month off in there. So it really was 11 months, but
Okay.
we went to Africa for almost a month. So we took a month
Yeah.
off in the middle, and then we took a month off at the end. So initially, that's what we did. Although we did not advertise that price, we advertised the monthly price.
Okay. What was the monthly price then?
So well, I'm trying to think here. I'd have to do the math, but it was
No, that's
like,
fine.
yeah,
2,000 divided by,
2,000 divided by 6 is going to be what?
that's 333. Did
Okay.
you round up or did a payment?
But then we went up. We went up.
Yeah.
So I think it was 375.
Okay, that's exactly what I've done. Perfect. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
we just which would pause real quick. Lesson for anybody who doesn't know this about payment plans. You're taking on a risk anytime you offer a payment plan, and so you do want your payment plan to be more than the pay in full price because, like, basically what you're doing is you're competing against them putting the whole full pay on a credit card or something like that, right? But you're not a bank. You're not in the business of making interest, and so there needs to be something to offset the risk that someone's gonna fail to pay over time. And so that's great to round up a little bit like that is good. Typically, I would say like 10 to 20% markup on your payment plan is pretty standard. So I'm not sure exactly what, let's say 375 divided 333. So that was a 12% markup. So that's about right. Yeah.
yes. And what we did is we said, so we advertised it, hey, this one is 375 a month.
Yeah.
And we said, or you can save 12% and pay in full.
Amazing. Yes.
So
Yes.
that's
I love
the
that.
work
Yeah.
we did. And honestly, we had probably half and half. We had
Yeah.
about
Okay.
half
Yeah, that's pretty typical.
paid in full,
Okay.
and about half of them did a payment plan.
Yeah. So do you remember I'm asking you for numbers from like over a year ago off the top of your head now, but do you remember how many people bought it at which price point?
Yeah. So we had 6 couples that joined us at the mentoring price point.
Okay.
So that'd be the 2,000. So that
Which
was
was like become a marriage mentor, basically, is how that was positioned, right?
become a
Yeah.
marriage mentor. And
Well,
so
I guess actually become marriage mentors as a couple, right? Because that was one price for a husband and wife.
that's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Got it.
And then we had 3 that did the become a marriage coach at the 5,000 level.
Okay.
And so
Great.
that made for a $27,000 launch. But they at the end of the 6 months, one of those couples said, "Oh, I really want to do
I want to upgrade.
I want to upgrade and become a coach." So
Yeah.
then they add another. So it made it a $30,000 launch in the end.
Love that. We're not going to play this video right now, but we do have a video from about a year ago when you first finished selling that first cohort of when you shared like a breakdown of like, here's how you earn. It's not said 25,000, but it sounds like it's grown to closer to 30. Is my math right?
Yeah, by the time it was all said and done, it was the
Yeah.
$30,000.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love that. That's great. That's excellent. So you started this program, you're getting paid to create as you go. You got other things going on, right? You've got speaking, you've got intensives, you've got books, you've got memberships, right? So this is fitting around the margins of that. And then you mentioned you took a month off for Africa. So can you tell us about that? Because I know that your group coaching program ended up having a surprise impact on your trip in Africa, but tell us about why you went to Africa.
Yeah, well, we went to Africa because we were invited to come and train marriages, particularly pastors. And so we went to Uganda and we actually trained 1,000 pastors and their wives. And
I'm glad you said the number because I've mentioned that story recently and I was like, 1,000, that sounds like I said the wrong number. It can't be 1,000 pastors and their wives, but it was.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
We met outside in a tent and it was like 90 degrees and we were like dying, but hey, we had an incredible time. And the interesting thing was that when we were all done with the 3-day seminar, we had quite a few of them, the couples, come to us and say, "Can you teach us to be marriage coaches?" And we were like, "There's no way. Like, there's no way." We just, I can't even imagine figuring how we could do this. And then Mark and I started talking about it, and we were like, "Wait a minute. We already had 3 months of our program down pat. And every time we would teach it, we were assembling it into a course. And so we use Samcart. That's our checkout,
Mhm.
and Samcart has a place for courses. So we were just assembling it as a course, and then people could go in and get their downloads, and they could watch it if they missed it or whatever. And so all of a sudden we were like, we can just give them access to this course. I mean, they don't have the money to pay. Many of these people that came to our marriage seminar walked 3 days to get there,
Wow.
and they had to walk 3 days to go home.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
So
they don't
saying,
have,
would you pay, $2 or $5,000 to join our coaching program was just not an option.
no,
Right.
but we have a heart, a giving heart. And we were like,
Mhm.
we'd really love to use this as a part of. And so, yeah, we ended up having about 30 couples that went through the course, watching the videos. And
Mhm.
then we would meet with them once a month to process what they had watched. We gave
And
them
Q&A.
a role and do Q&A. And we're
Yeah.
actually going back to Africa in January, and we're doing a 2-day in-person coaches training.
Wow.
And then we'll do another 2-day regular marriage seminar as well.
Yeah. I love that. It's such a great example of where you were able to have an impact by being there, just because of her reputation. You were able to have an impact on 1,000 pastors and their spouses, which also means who knows how many people, right? I mean, because they're all going back to their community
Right.
to love on their community, and that can have a generational impact on potentially millions of people. That's incredible. But then for you to be able to go deeper with a few and say, hey, there's about 30 of you that raise your hand that are saying we want more help, and for you to be able to say, okay, well, I've already got this group coaching program I've been recording. What if I just give you access to that and you do a bit of Q&A? The time cost for you and Mark is one call once a month,
Right.
but the impact is life changing. That's
Right.
incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was really, so we now actually have a nonprofit. So we have our for-profit
Mhm.
business, and we also have a nonprofit business. It's called the Life 2.0 Foundation. And that's
Mm,
where we support our ministry in Africa. And so
that's cool.
really what we were able to do is really kind of just serve the nonprofit side with that.
That's incredible. That's incredible. Okay. So, by the way, just any, I don't know, human stories to come out of that. I don't know of these pastors you're working with, or stories that have come up, or is there anything you can share just to kind of give us a window into their world?
Yeah, that's a great question. Okay, I will. So, one of the things that we teach in our marriage content is attachment styles and
Mm,
understanding attachment and how attachment is affecting your marriage. And what
yeah.
attachment is the relating patterns you learned in your home of origin,
Mhm.
and so it's understanding that you bring those patterns into your marriage. And
Mhm.
so we really spend a lot of time on that here. And at first we were like, is that going to translate to Africa? Like, I don't know. Will they really be able to get that? And we talked with several of our contacts in Africa, and they were like, yeah, I think they will. I think it'll be fine. And so we went ahead and taught it. Well, that was huge, just huge. And in one of the coaches that decided to join us, which, by the way, in order for him to do our Zoom call, he would have to climb up on the roof of his house to be able to have enough um, cellular service
Wow.
to use his phone and to be able to join our
Wow.
Zoom. Okay, so the guy's sitting on the roof of his house talking with and participating in the Zoom meeting and telling us about how the whole concept of attachment and understanding his attachment, which happened to be avoidant
Okay.
attachment, and how he was understanding how he was not loving his wife well. He didn't know how he was so shut down. I mean, it was like his mind was blown, but he was getting it.
Mm,
And that was so powerful. And he was like, you have completely changed the dynamics in our home. You have changed our
wow.
marriage. And that was so, 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 so
That's
powerful.
incredible. That's incredible. Um, oh man, I love that. The By the way, Annette says hi. She can't be here right now because
Oh,
a hurricane just hit Florida. She evacuated. She's okay. But I did just talk to her an hour ago. She's fine, but her and I talk a lot about how like this whole business is built on serving our grand clients. Like if Jill, like if you're a client, then like all these people you're talking about, I think of as my grand clients, where I just get really excited about that kind of impact because I'm just like, man, like you and I had a Zoom meeting like a year and a half ago that led to this like guy on his roof, with his self-service, like just changing his marriage. That's incredible. So, um, yeah, then thank you for sharing that. That's we're all about income and impact, and I think that's just like that is such as an extreme example of impact that I appreciate you sharing it.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I'm curious to see also, I mean, 5, 10, 20 years from now, what kind of impact that your ministry is going to have on all these communities in Uganda and how it might change, that can change a whole culture.
Well,
Um,
you want to know what's really crazy is one of the big things in Uganda that they deal with in marriages and even in church-based marriages, Christian
mhm,
marriages, is polygamy. And that's because
mm,
it's been a big part of the culture for many, 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 many decades. And so one of the
mm,
things that I mean, here's a beautiful picture of we were actually very able to talk about the dynamics that happens when you don't have a commitment to one partner because of
mm,
our story. And
yeah. Wow.
and so it was like we had never really thought about that until we got there. And it was like, because that was one of the things they were like, we want you to address infidelity because infidelity is a big part of the mindset here because it's normal. Like
Mm,
you just normally have a second partner and it's normal. And we want you to address why the pain of that and then how do you heal from that.
wow.
And it was like, we were even,
Are you uniquely equipped? So
yeah,
yeah. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. So let's get back to the group coaching program. So you launched your first cohort. Ended up being worth about $30,000, which is a great start, especially when you got other things going on. And then we didn't talk about this. What did you do to launch it? Right. So do you remember like, or if you have any particular examples, and this one's an over a year ago, so it might be hard to bring some of this up quickly, but did you have a sales page or an email campaign or a webinar or, yeah,
I do have here, let me share.
yeah.
Um, so we have a now the one that I used last year. This is the sales page. The one that I used last year was very basic,
Okay.
very basic. It did not look pretty like this.
Yeah. So this is
Okay.
the one that's from this current cohort that you just ran. Yeah. Okay. Got it.
Yeah. So this one we took it up a step.
Yeah.
But it was literally like I just went on and it was artistic about it. Like I literally just put basic information
Mm-hmm.
and just so people had a place to go. And that's where they signed up for our info session.
Yeah.
Um, so right now, what we've got, you see, we've now wait list. So we'll go backwards a little bit, but we've
Yeah.
got a wait list, and we actually are creating a document. It'll be a free marriage mentoring. Um, it's just a
Like
marriage mentoring.
guide or yeah.
Yeah. And so when people, so eventually this will change to get our free marriage mentoring guide and get on our
Mm-hmm.
wait list, that type of
Mm-hmm.
a thing. So we're in the process of doing that right now.
Great.
But we did sell it. So we did an email campaign. Um, I started a couple of months before um, when we were still thinking about it. I use ConvertKit
Mm-hmm.
and so I literally just did a link trigger in ConvertKit, which is, hey, we're thinking about starting to train marriage coaches and marriage mentors. If that would interest you, click here and we'll put you on a wait list
Okay, great.
and or an interest list. I think it's what we did. And
Yeah.
literally went nowhere. Like I think it went to just a page that said, "Thank you for letting us know."
Yeah.
It went if and when we decide to launch. Here's we'll make sure you
Well,
know.
and just for anybody who doesn't know how Kit, formerly known as ConvertKit, works, like that, you can set that up so it just tags people on the back end of like,
Yep.
like they're interested, so that you have a whole like sub list basically, or a segment.
Correct, because they were
Yeah.
already on my list.
Yeah.
I wanted to create that sub list so that when we were ready to go, I did promote to the whole list. Like I put it out there, but we sent extra emails to those who had said that they were interested. And that way, because I knew they'd already self-identified as being our
Hmm.
audience.
Yeah.
Um, so, so anyway, understanding all of that was really helpful for me, is getting to you know the segment of the audience that really wanted to do that. So we spoke directly to them. I did send
Hmm.
out several full emails to the list, just saying, hey, we're going to be doing this. And so we
Yeah.
invited them to an info session.
Okay.
And the info session, in essence, and we put together, just a basic PowerPoint and talk people through. This is the vision. This is why it's super important that that marriage coaches and marriage mentors. In fact, one of the things we shared is that after the pandemic, the wait list for people to get into marriage counselors has like doubled. And
Yeah.
so that was, in fact, that's been one of our major reasons for even moving forward on this is,
Hmm.
we were constantly getting people saying, hey, is there any way that you can take us on? We've been on a wait list to see a counselor for 5 months and we need help. And so we were building our coaching business just from that dynamic playing out.
Mm.
And so anyway, we did an info session where we talked about why it was important, what we were offering them, what our program looked like, and then really what the cost and the investment was, which, by the way, I never say the word cost. I always say investment.
Love
I know
that.
it's a little thing, but
Yes, words matter.
what the investment is.
Yeah.
And and then we talked about it from a time investment and a financial investment.
Okay.
Uh, and so from there, people could they could either reserve a spot and submit a deposit to reserve their spot. And
Hmm.
at that point in time, we were planning on no more than 4 in our coaching and no
Right.
more than, I think we said 10 in our
In
mentoring.
mentoring. Yeah. Okay.
And so we let them know, hey, there is a limit here. Don't,
Yeah. Which is important. It's important, Nick, to come out of the gate with a firm list of like, here's what we're gonna do, so that people know that that there is scarcity attached to that. That helps, especially when it's a new program. So let's fast forward a bit. You've had, I think, have all this program people in the first cohort, they've graduated, the ones that had the full 12-month program. Okay.
they're all
Yeah.
graduated. Yep.
Do you have a
Um,
next level option for those the people that graduated yet?
well, here's what we're working on,
Yeah.
and we're in the middle of it right now, trying to
Okay.
figure this piece out.
Yeah.
Is we're offering them to be featured on our website
Hmm.
as trained coaches, and then for people to be able to make uh, uh, appointments with them through our website.
Okay.
And so
Cool.
we're in the middle of trying to figure out what does that look like from a financial agreement,
Yeah.
that kind of a thing. And then also figuring out how do we keep them in the training loop.
Hmm.
So an example of that is I reached out to that group, and because we're doing this October marriage training seminar
Hmm.
that we just launched Tuesday night, I just reached out and said, hey, you guys, if you want to, you want to grease the wheels again, and it's been a little while since you've reviewed some of these basics, you can attend this for free. Just let
Great.
me know.
Yeah.
So, we're trying to keep them trained
Yeah.
and continuing education there. And then we're figuring out how then can they be featured on our website, and then for us to
Yeah.
benefit
Of
somehow from
course. Yeah.
so.
Got it. Okay. And if we have time, maybe we can talk about that and do some brainstorming live, because I have some ideas for you. But I'll hold it back for a minute while we dive a little bit further into cohort number 2. So you just started your second cohort of your program, right?
We did. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So tell us about that. So what did you do? Tell us first of all, like, what did you do differently this time?
Well, first we've changed how we deliver the course.
Okay.
So Mark and I decided we did not want to do, we were doing 90 minutes every other week.
Mm-hmm.
And we did that really for,
A year, right?
a year almost.
Yeah.
Take off 2 months in the middle of part of that. But yeah, and we were like, we don't want to do that anymore. And so what we determined to do is we now knew the content. So over the summer, Mark and I actually filmed all of the content. We did it through Zoom. So we just sat down and recorded it right on Zoom, no audience. And then we had like an intro and an outro put on each one, so it looks nice. And so now what we're doing is they have to watch 2 or 3 videos every 2 weeks, and then we only spend an hour doing a Q&A with them.
Okay, great. So yeah, so if I can interject real quick. So that is a great example of a flipped classroom model for a group coaching program. So just for anybody who's listening to this, who's thinking about this, a lot of my focus when getting started is like to follow the playbook pretty closely for your first cohort and maybe even your second cohort. But then it is a very choose your own adventure. I mean, what group coaching programs look like once you've taught people, once you've gotten a feel for like how do you actually be able to help people get results? There's a lot of different options for how you structure that program on an ongoing basis. This is a very common model of a flipped classroom, where it's called that because, well, a flipped classroom, the term actually started in schools, where some schools have experimented with saying like, what if we flip the classroom? Because the traditional classroom model is, a teacher lectures and then you go home and do the homework. And a flipped classroom is you watch the video at home and then you do the homework in the class while you have someone there to actually help you do the thing, right? So that's kind of, it sounds like that's what you've done here, is you've had this like flipped classroom model, which cuts down a lot on your time investment. But I think your price point's still pretty similar, the same, right?
It is. We chose to
Yeah.
keep it the same. We did also change that second. So remember we said we had part A and part B. Everybody does part A. And then with the first cohort, part B, we continued to teach them every other week. And then not for 6 months, we did it for another 4 months. And then they actually came to our home and they did an intensive in our home as a group.
Oh, okay.
And that was a plan. That was our plan. We decided that really the part B is the intensive part. Like we'll go ahead and do another like 4 or 5 videos past part A on the business side, and we'll continue to do the Q&As. But that weekend they're in our home is like worth 3 months worth of
additional for
coaching.
sure. That makes sense.
So we actually.
So you're not committed to another 6 months of Zoom calls, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So then, but we wanted to be able for us to take, here's the other thing we had to figure, is it's still a 12-month program, because we needed to divide that 5,000 over 12 months and make it viable for like a viable payment plan, which I think that one's like 5 or something like that. And so what we're doing is then we do a once a month check-in until we hit 12 months.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you waited a full year between cohorts because you got so much other stuff going on, right? And most people don't wait that long between cohorts.
Year. So we finished with the ones in April, and we finished with the marriage coaches in April, and then we launched the new one in September.
Sorry, I mean like a year from when you sold it, right? So it's actually
a little
more than a year.
A little over a year.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's probably the problem most people do, but it's because you guys have a lot of other things going on, right? And so so with that, so what does that look like from a revenue perspective with this second cohort? What did that turn into?
Yeah. So the second cohort didn't bring as much revenue as the first, which was disappointing to us. But it was still, it's still valuable. So we ended up with 3 in the, is that right? Hang on here, I gotta look real quick just to remember it.
No worries.
Yeah.
You told me 3 mentor couples and 2 certified coach couples. Yeah.
Yep. And 2 certified coach couples. Yep.
Okay.
So it's a smaller cohort.
But it still comes out to about a little over $17,000 of payment plans. Is that how that?
Yeah. In fact, it'll probably, because quite a few did, they actually did the payment plans. So it's
Okay.
probably closer to 18,000 by the time that it's said and done.
Yeah, from
But
a revenue perspective, sorry, you finish what you were going
yeah,
to
go
say.
ahead. No, 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 that's fine.
Okay. From a revenue perspective, that is a step back or down, right? So from 25,000 to 17,000 for your second cohort. But that's just 5 clients that second time, right?
Correct.
And you cut your time investment in
Significant.
fourth, like, or third.
Yeah, significantly.
Yeah. So which have you? Yeah. So I mean, I don't know what's next. I mean, have you thought
Well,
about?
and I would say our time investment and our energy investment, because literally
Yeah.
all we're doing is showing up for the Q&A,
Mm,
right? We're not prepping. We're
yeah.
not having to do any of that we had to do with that first one.
Hmm.
We had to prep it and we had to plan it and all of that. Well, that's all done. So we just show
Yeah.
up and do the Q&A.
That's nice. Have you thought about what's next? Like when you'll open another cohort, or if it's something you'll do more often, or if you want to scale that further, or is that still too soon to say?
No, it feels like the once a year thing feels about right for us.
Okay.
So I feel like we likely will stay on maybe this kind of the same thing where we launch in September and really we'll like the active part of it will end in probably March or April for us. And
Yeah.
then even though we'll meet with them once a month, like in June, July, August, but that's not real active. And so I
Yeah.
think we'll probably launch again next September.
Cool. Yeah, so one thing I want to call attention to for everybody is just that this is where like a lot of this is choose your own adventure, right? Like there's a model of how to do this, but there's ultimately like you have to look at that and decide what I want to do. So Rebecca Davis is another client of mine that like her goal is like she wants to earn $100,000 a year from her coaching program, and when she hits that threshold, she stops and focuses on her ministry and her books, and she's like that's it. Like could she scale it further? Could you scale it further? Yeah, definitely. But you've got other competing priorities. You got to decide what to focus on. And in your case, Jill, where you, Mark, also have your $5,000 in-person intensives a couple times a month, that's another, like just resource intensive, time intensive,
Mhm.
also premium offer. And so, this is where you've decided to split your attention, and it works well for you. And so but that's like the whole goal here is to design a business that fits you like a glove, where it's right for you,
Yep.
which is something that comes out of this. So thank you for sharing. What I'd
Yep.
love to do in just a moment is open this up to the community to ask questions. And so I'd encourage you, if you already have some questions for Jill or for me, but mainly for Jill, if you would go ahead and raise your hand and form a queue. And then while you do that, Jill, I would just love to know kind of like if there's just kind of just open up the floor a little bit for you to like have the mic and just say, is there anything in particular to someone who's like thinking about starting a group coaching program, or they're maybe in the midst of actually selling one? Any particular words of advice or pointers or just things you wish you knew that you'd like to share?
Well, I think that one thing would be that whole imposter syndrome and head trash is probably holding you back. I think it
Mm,
does for most of us. And probably if we look back at those 2 or 3 years before we finally pulled the trigger and said, let's do it. Um, yes, it was like, there's no, um, we don't have time, all of that was playing into it. But there was also like this, the imposter syndrome of, okay, it's
yeah,
one thing that we have figured this out for ourselves and we're like, it works and we can meet with clients and we're comfortable with that. And at first, honestly, we had imposter syndrome for that, right?
mm,
But I would say then the thought of training others, I don't know. Like, who are we? We don't have a degree in this. We
hmm,
don't, we don't, we're not trained therapists. And so I think that a lot of times that holds us back, all of that head trash and feeling like, what do I have to offer? And so I
yeah,
would just say you're gonna have to push through that and jump in the deep end
yeah.
because it will hold you back for forever.
Mm. Thank you for sharing, Jill. I appreciate that. What advice would you give to yourself, a year and a half ago, right before you launched your group coaching program? When you were, is there anything you would do differently, or any advice you would give to yourself then? And maybe it's the same with what you just said, but what else?
I don't know. I would probably say, um, what advice would I give myself? Just do it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm so glad I sat down. I remember like when I did my first landing page for it, and it was like
Hmm.
not fancy, and it didn't present well, and
Hmm.
all of that, and I was just like feeling like it's not gonna it wasn't the quality I would like.
Yeah.
Like I like to do things excellent, and I like to do things high quality and all of that. But I finally was like, this is all I have time to do. This gives people a place to go. It legitimizes what we're doing, and it will work.
Yeah.
And so that would be what I would, I think I
Yeah.
fretted over that a lot. And I just sometimes it's you you're
Yeah.
you're paralyzing yourself with um perfectionism. And so I think I would tell myself, you know what,
Yeah.
good is good enough.
Yeah. Good is good enough of that. I'm gonna. It's not. There's nothing wrong with my camera. I'm gonna switch to sitting desk. So I just mentioned that so nobody gets seasick. It's gonna change for a minute gradually. I'm gonna gradually gonna go down like this. But for those of you who are here in the live studio audience, of course, there's gonna be plenty of people watching the recording. So you have a burden of responsibility for each of you speaks for at least 5 people. So I'd love to know what questions do you have for Jill about her program, about what she's done, maybe a selfish question about what you want to do based on what you learned today. And if you have a question you'd like to answer or ask live, if you would, click react and raise your hand like Monique just did. And then we'll give you a chance to come on the mic and ask your question for either Jill or myself. So Monique, why don't you go ahead and go first and share your question?
Hi, Jill. Can you hear me okay? I'm on my ear
Yeah.
Yeah,
headphones. Okay,
yeah.
great. First of all, thank you for sharing your story. It's very inspiring. Um, I wanted to know, being somebody that likes things done the right way, how did you come to terms with selling a premium program when it's not all together? Because that's like
Yeah, I know. I know. It really is. It was really, really scary. I we had the bones of the program. Okay. So we had
Mhm,
the bones laid out. And so I knew we could do it. I knew that we could pull it together because we kind of laid out what the outline was going to be, and how it was going to look. And so then it was just a matter of every other week making sure that we were prepared to teach that concept. And it wasn't like these were new concepts to us. They're what we teach our everyday clients.
mhm,
But we were teaching for them to teach people, right?
mhm,
So we just had to think of it through a little bit of a different lens. So I think that part of it is recognizing I know this content, I know it, and we can communicate it. The fact that we haven't figured out exactly um, how we're going to teach each session, we'll figure that out week to week. That'll be just fine. And so I think that I was confident in knowing the content,
mhm.
but just needed to, I'll tell you what, that not having that fancy landing page, that bothered me more than anything. That's stupid, but it bothered me because I'm like, this is not a landing page for a $5,000 program, right?
Mm.
Like that was the thinking, right?
But it was.
But it was. And look,
Yeah.
we sold more with the stinky little landing page than we did with the nice one. So,
That's a
and
good
I
A/B
don't
split
think it
test.
really, I mean, I don't know that makes a whole lot of difference, but in reality, that bothered me more just because of the amount of money that people. But here's the other thing: we sold intensives way before we had that fancy intensive page that John showed you earlier. And so, I mean, in the beginning, we weren't selling intensives for 5,000. We started at 2,500 and then moved up to 3,000 and then 4,000. But still, when you can identify the felt need and you can communicate to people, you don't need fancy.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Great question, Monique. Carta asked a follow-up question to that. I just want to plug this in because it's related. She said, would you say teaching week to week helps you be more responsive to what's actually emerging from the group as well?
Absolutely.
That's great.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what I said when I said sometimes we went back and we tweaked the outline.
Mhm.
And we did that because it became evident in our conversation and as we were working with the group, like, oh, we probably really need to spend more time on this.
Yeah. So let's emphasize that on the flipped classroom model that you're teaching now, right? There's no way you could have done that on day one because you didn't know what to cover, right? I mean, you had an idea, but it hadn't been field tested.
Correct. Correct. And there's even a few things that already we've identified, even this one is like, we really should do probably a whole session on shame. Okay, that would be, that didn't come up in the first one. So what we'll probably do with this is we'll probably go and create a session on shame, and we'll just give it to them as a bonus.
Yeah, great.
And the next time we do it, we'll work that into it.
That's excellent. Thank you. Benson, what's your question?
Thanks. Well, I love the story. I'm just curious. So you're trying to basically like teach the coaches how to do it. I can get closer here. You're able to do it with the classroom time, right? I'm just wondering if you felt like there has been a need where you are there with them as they coach, right? Like beyond just the class. Like I'm imagining how nice would it be for that to be the case, but I don't know how practical that is. So
that's a good question. So with the mentors, we didn't feel as much of a need for that as with the paid coaches. And that's one of the reasons we did that intensive weekend with the paid coaches, because so what we did is we found a couple who wanted to do an intensive with us and they couldn't afford it. And we said, okay, we're training marriage coaches. Could you come and do an intensive with us? But there will be 4 other couples there and they're going to be learning how to do this. Are you willing to do that? And they were like, absolutely. They got a free intensive.
So they got 10 coaches, 10 marriage coaches.
Yep.
For their one couple. That's awesome.
They did. And so the beautiful thing is I would now feel comfortable sending any of them and people to any of them because I got to watch them work. Like we put them in the coaching seat as well at times. I mean, Mark and I did a majority of it, but we prepped them for some places where they sat in the coaching seat and then we were able to give them. Plus, the other thing we did is on our calls, we actually set up and they coached each other. So we set up on our calls where they would do some coaching with each other so that we could give them immediate feedback with that.
That's
we
excellent.
also still have a Slack group for that group, not for the mentors, but for the trained coaches. We have a Slack group. And if they run into anything, we tell them, we're in your back pocket. So if you get stuck, if you have a question, just ask. And usually what's happening more in that Slack group is people are talking about the people they're working with and the breakthroughs they're having. And, so really we're celebrating much more often than what they are, than where they are asking for wisdom.
That's excellent. It sounds like there's a bit of role play. And then there's also a little bit of guinea pig coaching, right? Where you got some guinea pigs to volunteer and come in and get coaching. And then so you can give the coaches feedback on the frameworks. Is that a good kind of summary of what you got? Yeah, that's excellent. That's a good strategy. Love that. Thank you, Benson. Great question. Tatiana, you're up next. What about you? What's your question?
Oh,
sorry.
There we go.
Yeah. Oh, I can hear you. We could hear you for a second, Tatiana, and then it went away. I'm not sure. Can you try again?
My microphone is buggy. Is that
okay,
better?
We're good.
Okay.
We can hear you now. Yeah.
So sorry about that. Thanks,
worries.
Bill, for sharing. I have 2 questions. One is, do you do any kind of admissions screening or something? Do you see that people have what it takes to become coaches because that seems relevant, especially if you're then going to feature them in your website. So how do you go about that? And the other question is, I'm just curious on, because of what I'm doing right now, on your journey around this constant Zoom calls. Is that sustainable? I just sold a very cheap membership, and some of my members paid annual, and I'm just very worried that I am like, I have to be with
Obligated.
on Zoom frequently for
Forever.
the year.
Yeah.
So I want to know whether I should relaunch this or not. Like, does it get really exhausting? I just can't anticipate.
Yeah, well, let me ask those backwards, or answer those backwards. So your last one, I always feel that way a little bit with our membership. It's like I feel the weight of, oh, I got to make sure that we are putting the content out there, right? But
Mhm.
one of the things I've tried to do with that is find less time time stealers and ways that I can still invest in that community where it doesn't require me to always be on a Zoom call.
Okay.
So when we first did our membership community, the date night that we looked at earlier, we did a monthly live marriage Q&A. And eventually we decided we're not going to do this monthly. We're going to do it quarterly. So now we do a quarterly live Zoom Q&A. And then we decided, okay, we're going to send out a monthly date night. And all I have to do on that is I create the date night and I do it in Canva. I do a quick little document in Canva, and that's content that I send out. So I don't have to sit on Zoom for that. So I would encourage you to think outside of Zoom, especially if you're like particularly worried about it like draining you or anything like that. It's like, how can you bring even just little pieces of encouragement towards them? Because the number one thing you don't want to do in membership is overwhelm.
Yeah.
And so, because then people check out. And so, how can you, bring encouragement without overwhelmed to both you and them?
Okay.
That's yeah.
So
There was
that would be-
multiple questions though. Did we get how far? I should probably have been keeping track, but how far are we through the questions?
She only had the other question she asked is there a screening? Is there any type of
Right.
screening?
Yeah.
And we told them right up front, the coaches, that if we were not comfortable graduating them for any reason, we wouldn't. Like, and so we told them that right up front. You graduating the program does not assure that you can be featured on our website or anything like that. We have to feel comfortable. And of the 4 that graduated, there was one couple, they want to use it in a little bit of a unique way, but they really don't want to do the kind of coaching that the others really want to. And we would have said the same thing. Like, we would have said, yep, that would have been the right. So they actually identified that themselves and we didn't have to. So we will only be featuring 3 of the 4 that graduated because of that.
Okay.
That's excellent. Thank you for sharing. Good
Thanks.
question, Tatiana.
Mhm.
So what I want to do now, Jill, well, 2 things. First of all, for everybody here in the live audience, if you would, I just dropped a question in the chat. What was your most useful takeaway from today's Spotlight with Jill? I want to give you a minute to think about that. Share that if you would, and then we'll come back and echo that. But Jill, if it's okay with you, I would also ask, would you be open to some rapid fire coaching on what that next level program might be on the other side of your group coaching program?
Sure.
Okay, great. So because I can't help but create offers.
Yeah.
So so thank you for feeding my obsession. I'm gonna share my iPad real quick and just gonna sketch this out. So you've essentially got 2 different feeders now. 2 different group programs, right? You've got Become a Marriage Mentors. Well, let's just call it, they're both marriage, right? So let's just call them mentors and coaches, right? So you got 2 programs. You've got mentors and you've got coaches. Now, right now, this mentor program actually feeds the coaching program, because you mentioned you've had people who signed up for the mentor program that also then ended up upgrading the coaching program. Hey, Mark, I see you just
Hi.
popping in there. Surprise guest. How you doing, Mark?
Well, I figured if you're going to be casting vision here, he needs to be listening.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Then Mark, thank you for being part of this and really I mean, this is your business too, and just really,
Right.
it's so helpful to hear this as a real life story of a coaching program. So thank you.
Yeah, cool.
So you've got your two programs right now, right? Mentors and coaches, and the mentor program like actually does feed the coaching program.
Mhm.
The question is, what happens next after? My rapid fire advice, right? So like the short version of my advice would be that you have a single mastermind offer at the top of this. So some sort of, probably what I would recommend is that it's somewhere around $500 a month. I say around. You could experiment with price points. You could say it's 400 or 375, for example. But I would recommend 500. And then what I would do is I would open this up to graduates of the marriage mentorship program and the marriage coaching program. But the difference is if you've been through the coaching program, then you can get featured on our website. So in other words, whether you're a graduate of the mentorship program or the coaching program, you get access to the same mastermind for an ongoing fee. But if you're also certified in the coaching program, it's sort of like a perk just because you went through the coaching program, is you also can get featured on the website if you're accepted. And so what that does is that creates this ongoing way where you can have this community that right now might just be 3 or 5 people, but can gradually grow and grow recurring revenue for you and your business, but also allow you to serve people on a regular basis. And you can decide how often you meet. Maybe there's once a year, there's like an annual in-person retreat. Maybe there's a couple of times a month, there's a mastermind meeting on Zoom. I know you've been part of mastermind groups several before, and so you're very familiar with that model. But what you find is that, and I don't know the specific individuals that went through your mentorship program, but just because they weren't ready to do coaching doesn't mean they weren't ready for ongoing support. And so there might be an opportunity for you to actually open the door for them to also get ongoing support. And then all of a sudden, these things all kind of feed each other in this way. So what do you think about that?
Yeah. I had not even thought about opening something like that up to the mentors, but we act like even this week when we made available the 4 weeks that we're doing this, several of our mentors tapped into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we made it available to both the mentors and the coaches, and several tapped into it. So that to me indicates they are interested in ongoing support in some way. Of course, we didn't charge them for it. We gave
Sure.
it, but
I can see where it would continue to reinforce principles and maybe provide more encouragement, and then also a connection to community.
Yeah.
Well, at the $500 a month price point, I'll also say like that price point is going to weed out some people who are just sort of like casually interested. Like that's fine, right? If they just join the mentorship program, but if they've already invested $2,000 to say like I want to take this seriously, some of those people are going to want to say like I want to continue investment. With the $500 a month price point, though, tells me is it's really a mastermind that's built primarily for the coaches. In other words, those who are already like they're going into this planning to make money from it, so it's primarily meant for them. But it's a low enough price point that it's accessible to a lot of people who are not building a coaching business that may just want to continue to invest in their marriage. Because you think about it, it's actually $250 a month per person because there's a husband and wife in there together, right?
Oh, right.
yeah. Yeah, that's true.
And so if I mean, I know that the majority of what you're going to go through in your ongoing support is going to be like there's going to be some opportunities to have Q&As for coaches on pricing or marketing or that kind of stuff, but the majority of your attention is going to be on how do you coach couples through difficult situations, which is going to be useful in both cases. And I know you both say that when you coach other couples, you're really coaching yourself, and that your marriage grows because of that. And so like that's sort of like the ultimate goal here, where it's like, man, like yeah, if I can set aside $500 a month for my wife and I to go through this, to become mentors, we've already become marriage mentors in our community, to get ongoing support, resources, and to grow ourselves, that's pretty special.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I do worry about that price point being high for I mean, I get it. I don't know that any of our people are earning that much yet. And so that's why I'm thinking, I wonder if that would be even feasible for them.
Right.
But
yeah, well, they've got some sort of income source. These are people who've already paid you at least $2,000 or $5,000, right? So they've got some
Right.
way to fund that, even if it's not from their marriage coaching business specifically.
Yeah.
You could charge less. In my experience, that's the price point that allows you to invest really enough of your time for it to be a really phenomenal experience for them. Because what happens is when you charge less, you were just by necessity have to give less because your energy is pulled somewhere else.
Yeah.
Whereas here, it's like, okay, if you get to the point where you have, let's just say you get to the point where you have 10 people in this group, that's $5,000 a month in recurring revenue for your business, which is significant, right?
Right.
It doesn't replace the other income streams, but it's enough to really get a dedicated, source of your attention as entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
But there's also, you could stair step into it. You could say, hey, this is going to be a $500 a month mastermind. The first, 2 people who join get it for $200 a month. The next 2 for 300, and then 400. You could kind of stair step up to that price point.
Yeah. Yeah. And then what would you say at that level is how often you're meeting?
So I'd say my favorite masterminds meet every week, but there's plenty of masterminds I've seen at this price point that meet like twice a month. That's pretty standard for this price point.
Okay.
So yeah, so like twice a month, maybe it'll be something like the first and third Wednesday or something like that, where it kind of flows pretty easily. And then you don't have to include any sort of in person, but because you already do that as part of your business, it'd be kind of cool if that was like a bonus or perk with like there's going to be some sort of once a year mastermind retreat or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be important.
Yeah. And then do you think for them to be featured on our website that that there's a placement fee for that, or B, so we're making our money here rather than taking a percentage of anything that is booked through our website. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's so when you do the percentage of what's booked through the website, it's just so complicated. It introduces so much complexity. It's like now all of a sudden your success is dependent upon not only their success, but it's like their accounting system. Like you're based on like there's just so many variables. It gets so complex really quickly.
Yeah.
Which is why most people don't end up going that route. Like there's plenty of people who've kind of tried that route. I don't think, I know obviously like, yeah, here's the other thing. When you say, hey, you get, you're going to pay us a percentage of what's booked through our website. Well, basically now you're basically you're saying like, hey, we're your marketing channel. And what happens is sometimes then people assume that most of their marketing can come from you, right? So this is a big problem with like, I know we have several people in our community here who are either like StoryBrand or Business Made Simple, like coach builder trainers. And this was a big problem for that program was when they first launched, is because they're like, hey, we're going to feature you as a coach. And then the implication wasn't said, but the implication was you're going to get flooded with clients. And that has not been most people's experience. You actually still have to go find clients. And so that created this like just sort of disconnect where it's like, oh man, like it just creates this disappointment. And so when you say like, look, this is a perk, but like this is not your whole business model. Your whole business model is not just to get featured on Jill Savage and Mark's website, right? So instead, what I would do is I would say like, if you keep your current price points, you're like, okay, look, $2K is just the mentor program, and you can go straight from mentors to the mastermind if you don't want to build a coaching business off of this. But if you want to build a coaching business, you're paying extra, you're getting training, but that's also your placement fee. Your placement fee is if you graduate the coaching program, as long as you're a mastermind member, you can continue getting featured on our website. And so that's where it comes related, right? It's a prerequisite.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's your rapid fire coaching for today. I hope that's useful.
Go.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Monique said I can feel like a pyramid. Okay. Well, yeah, I guess it was a triangle, but I don't know. I don't want to, it's not a pyramid scheme because it's upside down. So that makes it a Dorito or something.
I can see where that could be misunderstood or assumed. So
yeah, that's
about
good.
the growth and source of leads. Yeah, it's a big
the pyramid thing.
Yeah, I mean, you probably have talked to Jeff and Beth about this too, but that's also like something they've wrestled with in the past with like how much do coaches expect with your Enneagram coach that all their like there are people who are like, why are you not sending me all of my clients? It's well, we can help, but you can't build your whole business off the back of that.
Right.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, hey,
all right.
Let me hop in.
And
Bye.
by the way, he just had eye surgery, so that's part of the reason he has a black eye.
Oh no.
He just had another eye surgery.
Another eye surgery?
And his 8th one.
Wait, but on the same eye or?
Yeah. So
have you got vision back in the other eye yet, or still one eye?
No, just one eye. But I have been having fun saying, Jill, punch me, You gotta
be careful, Mark. You gotta be careful.
That doesn't help us. at all.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, hey, thank you so much, Mark and Jill. And so for those of you who are here live, I still would love to know, what is your most useful takeaway from today's Spotlight with Jill? We've got another one of these coming up. So now every 6 weeks, we're doing a Sold Out Coach Spotlight. And so, Jill, the next one in 6 weeks is Sean Blanc, as he's agreed to come on and do his. And so, yeah, so it's going to be a whole new part of our rhythm now. It's just every 6 weeks, we'll have a spotlight. So, yeah, so let's see. So Elizabeth said, it's helpful to hear again that it's okay to start with version 1.0. It's like another entrepreneurial training. Ship your minimum viable product and then continue to iterate and improve from there with the feedback from your clients or cohorts. Perfect is the enemy of done. Yes, yes, yes. Adam said, avoid overwhelming membership because if people are overwhelmed, they will check out. That's so true. That's so true. It's where the kind of like paradox of it is usually the way we overwhelm people is actually because we really care as coaches. And so we end up just saying like, have all the things, but actually that's not helpful. I'm trying to remember who wrote it, but there was a famous letter that says, I would have written you a shorter letter, but I didn't have the time. Because it's like, that's really what it takes, is like brevity takes time. Yeah. There you go, Parker. Ready, fire, aim. Yes. Love that. Thank you all so much. Jill, thank you for being here for this spotlight. I appreciate it. Yeah. Any final words of encouragement you want to share with the group? I know I've asked you a couple times to share, so I don't know if the well's running dry, but thank you for sharing.
Yeah, just do it. Go.
Just do it. There you go. Sponsored by Nike. Yes.
There you go.
Yeah. All right.